Have you ever felt like you are running on a treadmill that someone else controls? You wake up early, you grind through a 50-hour work week, you budget, you sacrifice, and you pay your bills. Yet, at the end of the month, when you look at the balance in your bank account, it feels like you haven't moved an inch. It's the modern American nightmare. The harder you run, the faster the ground moves beneath your feet. For years, society has told you that this is your fault. They say you aren't disciplined enough, that you buy too many lattes, or that you just need to work harder. But have you ever paused to ask yourself if that feeling of constant financial suffocation is actually artificial? Does this sound familiar? You pay off one card only to need another for an emergency. You pay your mortgage for 5 years, only to realize you've barely touched the principal because you are drowning in interest. What if I told you that this rat race isn't a result of bad luck or poor personal management? What if I told you that the struggle is a feature, not a bug? Stick with me here, because we are about to pull back the curtain on the most sophisticated magic trick in financial history. The reality is that the economy you live in wasn't built for you to win. It was meticulously engineered for you to stay exactly where you are, in a perpetual state of repayment. We call them the debt architects. These aren't just bankers. They are the designers of a system where your debt is their primary asset. To them, financial freedom is a threat to their business model. They need you on that treadmill because your exertion powers their empires. Think about it for a second. If a guy on the street corner lends you money at an exorbitant rate and threatens to break your legs if you miss a payment, we call that a loan shark. We call that organized crime. The police arrest him, and society condemns him. But when a massive institution lends you money at predatory rates, buries the terms in 50 pages of legal jargon, and threatens to take away your home, destroy your credit score, and ruin your future if you stumble, we call that market efficiency. We call that Wall Street. The only difference between the mobster and the banker is that one uses a baseball bat and the other uses the legal system. One operates in the shadows. The other operates in a glass tower with government approval. This is the hidden side of our political economy, a world where white-collar crime has been sanitized and rebranded as essential financial services. It is a system designed to extract wealth from the many and funnel it to the few, not through innovation or production, but through the mathematical inevitability of compound interest. What you're about to discover might make you angry, but it is essential that you understand it. Because once you see the blueprint, you realize that being in debt isn't a sign of personal failure. It is the sign of their success. They have gamified human necessity. They have turned the American dream into a subscription service where you never actually own anything. But how did we get here? How did we allow a system to be built where money is no longer a store of value, but a tool of control? To understand how the trap works, we have to look at the foundation. We have to look at the moment the ink hits the paper. Most people think they understand how a loan works, but the reality of where that money comes from is stranger and darker than you could ever imagine. It starts with a concept that sounds boring, but is actually the weapon used to keep the entire world in shackles. It starts with the invisible creation of money. This concept of invisible money is the key to the whole operation, and it's something schools intentionally gloss over. Before we break down exactly how this magic trick works, I want to pause for just a moment because this topic can be heavy. We are talking about a system that thrives on making you feel isolated in your struggle. If anything I've said so far resonates with you, if you've felt that invisible weight we talked about, drop a comment below sharing your experience or just a simple, "I'm listening." It's important to realize that the anxiety surrounding debt is often manufactured to keep us quiet. Reading your stories helps build a community that actually understands the game, proving that none of us are truly alone in this fight. And if you believe that this kind of unfiltered financial history deserves to be told, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. It might seem like a small detail, but your participation is the only way we can bypass the noise and get this information to the people who need it most. It tells the algorithm that we are paying attention, and your support is literally the fuel that keeps this investigation running. Thank you for being part of this. Now, with that said, let's get back to the crime scene. To understand the architect, we have to look at the tools they use. Most people assume that when a bank lends you money, they are lending you existing cash from a vault, money that other people deposited. That assumption is the foundation of the lie. The lie is comfortable because it makes sense to us intuitively. We grow up believing that a bank is essentially a safe house, a place where people store their hard-earned savings, and the bank, acting as a helpful middleman, lends that existing money to other people who need it. In this story, the bank is just a steward of capital. But that story is a fairy tale. The reality of modern finance, the hidden truth that keeps the gears of Wall Street turning, is that banks do not lend money. Banks create money. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it is a documented fact of the fiat currency system we have lived under for decades. When you walk into a branch to sign a mortgage or an auto loan, the banker does not walk back to a vault, check how much cash is in the safe, and then hand you a portion of it. That is not how the mechanism works. Instead, a profound transformation occurs the moment your pen hits the paper. When you sign that promissory note, the bank simply types digits into a computer. In that split second, new money is born. It didn't exist 5 minutes before you walked in. It wasn't transferred from a saver's account to yours. It was conjured out of thin air, backed by nothing but your promise to pay it back and the legal authority of the banking charter. This is what we call fractional reserve banking, though in the modern era, it's even more aggressive than that term suggests. You are not borrowing wealth that has been produced. You are monetizing your future labor. The bank is essentially printing money, a power that would land you or me in federal prison for counterfeiting. But for them, it is the standard operating procedure. This realization changes your mindset completely. You realize that the money you are stressing over, the money that keeps you awake at night, is essentially a digital entry on a ledger that cost the bank $0 to produce. They are selling you a product that cost them nothing to manufacture, and they are charging you a premium to use it. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because the creation of the principle is only half of the trap. The real genius of the design and the real horror of it lies in the mathematics of interest. This is where the revelations truly become disturbing. Let's do a thought experiment. Imagine for a moment that you and I are the only two people on Earth, and there is one bank. I borrow $100 from the bank. As we just established, the bank creates that $100 and deposits it into my account. Now, the total amount of money in the entire economy is $100, but the bank lends me this money at 5% interest. So in 1 year, I owe the bank $105. Here's the problem. The bank created the $100 principal, but they never created the $5 for the interest. That extra $5 does not exist in the system. So how can I possibly repay the debt? In this closed system, it is mathematically impossible. I can hustle, I can work, I can sell you things, but there is only $100 in existence. To pay back the $105, I would need to find money that was never created. Mal, expand this impact to the global economy. The fundamental flaw, or rather, the fundamental feature of our monetary system is that the total debt owed always exceeds the total money in circulation. There's always more debt than there is money to pay for it. This creates a perpetual game of musical chairs. When the music stops, someone must lose. Someone must go bankrupt. It is not because they were lazy or made bad decisions. It is because the system is mathematically rigged to ensure a percentage of the population fails. The scarcity you feel is not a result of limited resources. It is an engineered scarcity. The journey of every dollar in your pocket began as a debt someone else took on. If everyone paid off their debts tomorrow, every single dollar would vanish from the economy. There would be no money left. Think about the gravity of that. The system requires you to be in debt for the economy to function. The bastidors behind the scenes of this architecture reveal that your insolvency is baked into the cake. This is why the pressure feels constant, because the demand for interest is chasing a supply of money that literally does not exist. The banks know this. The economists know this. The politicians know this. And yet the narrative remains that if you can't pay, it is a moral failing on your part. This structure forces society into a hyper-competitive state where we are all fighting for enough currency to service the interest on money that was created out of nothing. It drives the need for infinite growth on a finite planet because we always need to create more new debt, new money, today to pay off the interest on the old debt from yesterday. It is a Ponzi scheme that has been legalized and normalized. When you understand this, the shame of debt begins to fade, replaced by a cold, hard understanding of the battlefield. You aren't losing because you're a bad player. You're losing because the house set the rules so that the math only works for them. This perspective shift is crucial. It stops you from looking at your bank statement with guilt and starts making you look at it with strategy. You begin to see that the institutions offering you credits are actually selling you shackles. They are the architects of a reality where you are perpetually renting your own life. It is a sobering truth, but acknowledging it is the first step in the transformation from a passive participant to an awake observer. If this breakdown of the math behind the curtain is resonating with you, if you can see how the game of musical chairs has played out in your own life or the lives of people you know, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and simply write, "The math doesn't lie." It's a small signal that you see the system for what it really is. But knowing how the money is created is only the first layer of the onion. The next question is even more sinister. Once they have you trapped in this cycle of mathematical scarcity, how do they ensure you stay there? How do they enforce the collection of this impossible debt? Well, if you look closely at their tactics, you'll start to notice that the methods used by the biggest banks in the world bear a striking, almost terrifying resemblance to an organization that operates on the complete opposite side of the law. We like to think there is a thick line separating the boardroom from the back alley, but when you analyze the business model, that line starts to blur until it almost disappears. Let's be honest about what we are looking at here. When you strip away the marble floors, the polished mahogany desks, and the tailored suits of the bank executives, the underlying mechanics of Wall Street begin to look uncomfortably familiar. If you study the history of organized crime, you inevitably come across the concept of the protection racket. In the streets of 1920s Chicago or the neighborhoods of Palermo, it was called Pizzo. The deal was simple, brutal, and direct. You pay the local boss a weekly fee, and in exchange, your shop doesn't mysteriously catch fire and your windows don't get smashed. You were paying for the privilege of operating, paying for safety against the threat that the racketeers themselves created. Now look at your bank statement. Look at the line items that chip away at your balance every month. Monthly service fee, minimum balance fee, account maintenance fee. What are these charges? They are the corporate version of Pizzo. You are paying the institution simply for the privilege of letting them hold the money that they are already using to leverage their own investments. But the comparison goes deeper and gets darker. Consider the overdraft fee, perhaps the most predatory invention in the history of modern finance. This is where the hidden truth of the business model reveals itself. If you have plenty of money, the bank pays you interest, however small. But if you are struggling, if you are living paycheck to paycheck, and you accidentally spend $5 more than you have on a gallon of milk, the bank slaps you with a $35 penalty. Think about the morality of that decision. They are effectively kicking you when you are down, extracting wealth from the people who can least afford to lose it. In the mafia, they might break your thumbs for being short on cash. In the banking world, they break your financial future, driving you deeper into a hole you can't climb out of. The impact is the same: absolute control through economic dominance. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject because the fees are just the appetizer. The main course, the true engine of this architecture of corruption, is the way they structure the repayment of debt itself. In the world of loan sharking and illegal gambling, there's a term known as the vig, or the vigorish. It is the interest you pay to the shark just to keep the loan alive. The shark doesn't actually want you to pay off the principal. If you pay off the debt, the relationship ends and his income stream dries up. The shark wants you on the hook forever, paying the vig week after week, terrified and subservient. Now take a hard look at your credit card bill. Look at that bold number they highlight at the bottom. The minimum payment. This is not a helpful suggestion designed to assist you in managing your cash flow. This is the vig. It is a calculated trap. When you make that minimum payment, you are covering the interest and a tiny, almost microscopic fraction of the principal. They have engineered the math so that if you only pay the minimum, a $5,000 debt could take you over 20 years to pay off, costing you double or triple the original amount in interest. This is the bassadors, the backstage reality of the credit industry. They are not in the business of lending money. They are in the business of renting money. The credit card is the most profitable product in their portfolio because it is designed to exploit the human psychology of immediate gratification and delayed consequence. This is a profound transformation of the relationship between citizen and economy. It turns the consumer into a perpetual servant. It is modern serfdom disguised as financial liberty. They hand you a platinum card, they give you points and rewards to gamify the experience. making you feel like a high roller, all while the mathematical clamp tightens around your neck. It's a brilliant, evil magic trick. The loan shark is honest about his intentions. He wants his cut. The bank pretends to be your partner, your financial advisor, your path to the American dream, while simultaneously handing you the rope to hang yourself financially. Realizing this changes your mindset fundamentally. You start to see that the decisions you thought you were making freely were actually guided by a system designed to entrap you. Why do you think they aggressively market credit cards to college students who have no income? Why do you think they raise your credit limit without you asking when they see you are carrying a balance? They are feeding the addiction. They are ensuring that the VIG keeps coming. It's a journey into the heart of a system that views you not as a client, but as a harvestable resource. The parallel between the mob and the bank isn't just a poetic metaphor. It is a structural reality. Both rely on leverage. Both rely on fear. The fear of a bad credit score is the modern equivalent of the fear of a broken leg, and both rely on a continuous stream of payments that never actually settles the score. The difference is that one operates in the shadows and the other operates in the light, protected by the very laws that are supposed to protect you. This revelation can be heavy, but it is necessary. You cannot fight an enemy you do not understand. And once you understand that the minimum payment is a trapdoor, you can finally decide to stop standing on it. This whole structure, this VIG economy, relies on your participation. It relies on you staying asleep at the wheel, swiping the card, and gratefully paying the minimum. But there is another layer to this. The banks don't just rely on your passivity. They actively weaponize your own psychology against you. They have spent billions studying how the human brain processes desire, risk, and reward. And they have built a digital environment that pushes your buttons before you even realize you have them. It's not just about the math anymore. It's about the mind games. If you are starting to see the connection between the VIG and the minimum payment, if you are realizing that the game is rigged to keep you running in place, I want you to leave a comment below. It's a way of acknowledging the truth so we can move past it. Write this down in the comments. I see the trap. Let's flood the section with that phrase so they know we are waking up. But simply knowing the trap exists isn't enough. We have to understand why we walk into it so willingly. You might think you are immune to their advertising, but the next part of this puzzle involves the sophisticated psychological warfare used to manufacture your consent. It is often said that the most dangerous prison is the one you don't realize you're in, and the architects of the system understand that better than anyone. They realized long ago that physical force is messy and expensive. It is much more efficient to control people through their desires, to weaponize their own dreams against them. This brings us to a crucial transformation that occurred in the global economy, specifically during the 1980s and 1990s. If you look back at the generation of our grandparents, the concept of credit was fundamentally different. Back then, debt was a tool for production. You borrowed money to buy a tractor for your farm, to purchase machinery for your factory, or to acquire raw materials to build a product. Debt was an investment in your ability to create value. It was a calculated risk taken to build a future. But the architects saw an opportunity to flip the script. They realized that if they could shift the culture from credit for production to credit for consumption, they could enslave an entire population without firing a single shot. Suddenly, the narrative changed. Credit wasn't for building a business. It was for the vacation you deserved, the car that would make your neighbors jealous, the clothes that would define your status. They stopped selling capital and started selling lifestyle. This shift in mindset was catastrophic for the wealth of the middle class. We stopped using leverage to build assets and started using it to buy liabilities. We began trading our future freedom for present-day pleasure, a transaction that always ends in servitude. But here is the hidden truth that makes this dynamic so terrifying. It is not random. The offer for that new credit card or that exclusive personal loan doesn't land in your mailbox or your inbox by accident. We are living in the age of algorithmic predation. The banks and credit card companies have access to data that would make an intelligence agency jealous. They know where you shop, what you buy, and more importantly, they can infer how you are feeling. They track your spending patterns to identify moments of vulnerability. Have you ever noticed that you get offers for credit limit increases right around the holidays? Or perhaps after you've had a series of unusual expenses? That isn't a coincidence. It is a targeted strike. They use sophisticated models to predict exactly when your willpower is low and your need for a dopamine hit is high. They are engineering your decisions before you even make them, placing the temptation right in front of you at the exact moment you are least likely to resist. It is a psychological siege designed to keep you in that sweet spot where you are spending just enough to generate interest, but not enough to default ... yet. Now I want to go even deeper into the subject, because the cynicism of this business model reaches a level that is almost hard to believe. You might assume that the bank is terrified of you not paying them back. After all, if you default, they lose money, right? That is the old way of thinking. In the modern financial landscape, the architects have figured out how to monetize even your failure. This is one of the most shocking revelations of the 21st century, and it was the core mechanic behind the 2008 financial crisis. It is called securitization. Here is how it works in the bastidors, behind the scenes of Wall Street. When you take out a loan, a mortgage, a car note, or credit card debt, the bank doesn't just sit on that debt and wait for you to pay. They take your loan, bundle it together with thousands of other loans from other people, and package them into a complex financial product. They then sell this package to investors, pension funds, foreign governments, hedge funds as a tradable asset. The moment they sell that bundle, they have made their profit. They have offloaded the risk. They have effectively cashed out on your debt before you have even paid it off. But it gets worse. Because they make their money on the volume of loans they originate and sell, they have no incentive to ensure you can actually afford the loan. In fact, during the lead-up to 2008, and in many sectors today, like the subprime auto market, the incentive is purely quantity. They want you to sign the paper so they can sell the paper. And in the darkest corners of this industry, there are mechanisms where they can actually bet against the very bonds they sold. They can profit if the loans go bad. Think about the impact of that reality. The institution pretending to help you build a home or buy a car might be positioning itself to profit from your financial collapse. This turns the entire concept of banking on its head. You are no longer the customer, you are the raw material. Your debt is the product they are mining, packaging, and shipping out to global markets. This is why the offers never stop coming, regardless of your financial health. They need to keep the conveyor belt moving. They need fresh debt to bundle and sell. It is a machine that eats the future of the working class to fuel the bonuses of the financial elite. This journey into the mechanics of securitization reveals that the system is not broken. It is working exactly as it was designed. It was designed to extract value from you, whether you succeed or whether you fail. When you understand that your consumption is being weaponized against you, that your desire for a better life is being used as the bait for a trap, it changes how you walk through the world. You start to see the advertisements, the 0% APR for 12 months offers, and the rewards points at schemes not as benefits, but as hunting tactics. You realize that every time you swipe that card for something you don't need, you are feeding the beast that is eating your freedom. It is a sobering wake-up call, but it is also the moment where you can take back your power. You can choose to opt out of their game. You can choose to stop being the product. If this explanation of how they use psychology and securitization to profit from your debt is hitting home, if you are realizing that you have been played by a system that understands your brain better than you do, I want you to leave a comment. Let's make a statement that we are onto them. Write this in the comments below. I am not a product. It is a simple declaration, but it marks the beginning of the end of their control over you. But, of course, knowing the game is one thing. Understanding how they rig the laws to make sure they can never lose is another. You might be wondering, if this is also predatory, why doesn't the government stop it? That is the million-dollar question. And the answer lies in the fact that the people writing the rules are often the same people profiting from the game. To understand how this house of cards stays standing, we have to look at the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. If you have ever found yourself screaming at the television, wondering why not a single major banker went to prison after they crashed the global economy in 2008, you are asking the right question, but you might be missing the most disturbing answer. The reason isn't just that they had good lawyers. The reason is that, for the most part, what they did wasn't illegal. And it wasn't illegal because they paid to ensure the laws were written in their favor. This is the hidden truth of our political system. The crime has been legalized. In the world of high finance, you don't break the rules. You buy the rule book and rewrite it. This is where the bastidors, behind the scenes of Washington, D.C. and Wall Street merge into a single, indistinguishable entity. We call it lobbying, a polite term for what is essentially institutionalized bribery. The return on investment for lobbying is higher than any stock, bond, or crypto asset in existence. For a few $1,000,000 in campaign contributions, the financial industry buys billions in tax breaks, deregulation, and bailouts. It is a closed loop of power. The impact of this is felt most painfully in the laws that govern your personal debts. Take a look at student loans in the United States. This is perhaps the most glaring example of a system rigged against the individual. If a corporation fails, it can file for bankruptcy and wash its hands of its debts. If a real estate mogul makes a bad bet, he can declare bankruptcy and start over. Even a gambler who loses everything at a casino can often discharge those debts in court. But you? If you took out a loan at 18 years old to get an education trying to better your life, that debt is glued to you. It is nearly impossible to discharge student loan debt in bankruptcy. Why? Because in 2005, a bill was passed, the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act, that made it significantly harder for regular people to escape debt, specifically student loans. Who do you think wrote that bill? It wasn't consumer advocates. It was the banking lobby. They effectively stripped away your right to a fresh start, turning a generation of students into indentured servants to the servicing companies. This wasn't an accident. It was a decision made in a boardroom and stamped in Congress. They looked at the landscape, saw that students were a risk, and decided to use the heavy hand of the government to guarantee their profits. It is a level of malice that is hard to comprehend until you look at who is actually sitting in the regulatory chairs. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because the corruption isn't just about money changing hands. It's about people changing seats. We need to talk about the revolving door. This is the mechanism that ensures the government never truly cracks down on the banks. The people appointed to regulate Wall Street, the officials at the Treasury, the SEC, and the Federal Reserve are almost always former executives from the very banks they are supposed to be policing. And when they leave their government jobs, where do they go? Right back to Wall Street, often with a massive pay raise. Think about the psychology of that. If you are a regulator and you know that your next multi-million-dollar job depends on staying on good terms with Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, are you going to hit them with a heavy fine? Are you going to enforce strict regulations? Of course not. You are going to look the other way. You are going to treat them with kid gloves because you are auditioning for your next role. This transformation of public servants into corporate agents completely erodes the concept of justice. It creates a culture where the regulators and the regulated are on the same team, playing against the American public. They attend the same cocktail parties, send their kids to the same private schools, and share the same mindset that the financial sector is too big to fail and too important to be questioned. This explains why, whenever there is a crisis, the solution is always to bail out the banks and leave the homeowners and workers to suffer. In their eyes, the banks are the economy. Protecting the architects of the disaster becomes the priority, while the victims are told to practice personal responsibility. It is gaslighting on a national scale. The journey to understanding this political economy reveals that we do not live in a free market. A free market has consequences for failure. If you run a bakery and you burn the bread, you go out of business. But on Wall Street, if you burn down the global economy, the taxpayer prints you a check to rebuild it. This is not capitalism. It is socialism for the rich and brutal capitalism for everyone else. The realization that hits you when you study this history is that they are not playing the game with you. They are the owners of the casino. In a casino, the house doesn't gamble. The house manages the mathematics to ensure they always win in the long run. Occasionally, a player might win a hand, just like you might pay off a car or get a lucky break, but the statistical probability is designed to drain the wealth of the crowd and funnel it to the house. They set the table limits, they employ the dealers, and they write the rules of conduct. If the players start winning too much, they change the rules. If the machine breaks, they fix it to ensure it keeps taking your coins. This feeling of being trapped in a rigged game is valid. It is not paranoia. It is pattern recognition. You are sensing the walls of the maze that were built before you were even born. But here's the revelation that they don't want you to have. A casino only works if people keep walking through the door and sitting at the tables. The moment you understand that the game is fixed, you gain the ability to rethink your strategy. You stop looking to the government to save you because you know they are on the payroll. You stop trusting the bank's advice because you know they are the adversary. You start to look for the exit. If this breakdown of the connection between money and politics makes your blood boil, If you are tired of watching the rules change only when it benefits the elite, I want you to leave a comment below. Let's acknowledge the reality of the situation so we can move forward. Type this phrase in the comments: "They own the casino." It's a message that says you see the strings, you see the puppet masters, and you are done pretending that this is a fair fight. But if the system is a rigged casino and the government is the bouncer protecting the house, what can you actually do? Is it hopeless? Absolutely not. In fact, the most rebellious thing you can do in a debt-based monetary system is to learn how to opt out of the debt itself. The final piece of this puzzle is not about changing the world overnight. It's about changing your position on the board. It's about the revolution of the wallet. So, where does this leave us? We have exposed the architects, we have analyzed the blueprints of their trap, and we have acknowledged that the political machinery is oiled to keep the gears grinding. It is easy to look at the sheer scale of this system: trillions of dollars, global banking conglomerates, bought and paid for politicians, and feel small. It is easy to feel like a victim in a game that was decided before you even sat down at the table. But falling into despair is just another form of surrender. The architects want you hopeless because hopeless people continue to swipe, continue to borrow, and continue to pay the vague just to survive. But there is a way out. It doesn't require a violent uprising or a total collapse of society. It requires a quiet, personal, and ruthless revolution that takes place in your own home, at your kitchen table, every single time you get paid. If the system is designed to keep you paying interest, then the most rebellious, punk rock, anti-establishment act you can possibly commit is to get out of debt. I am not talking about becoming a billionaire or driving a Lamborghini. I'm talking about something much more dangerous to the status quo. I'm talking about becoming unfarmable. When you pay off a debt, you are not just improving your credit score. You are actively removing yourself from their balance sheet. You are cutting the wire that transfers your energy to their grid. Every dollar of principal you pay down is a brick you remove from their castle and use to build your own fortress. This is the transformation we need to talk about. We need to stop looking at financial literacy as a boring subject for accountants or a get-rich-quick scheme for day traders. We need to reframe it entirely. Real financial education is self-defense class for your wallet. It is the martial art of the 21st century. Just as you would learn to block a punch to protect your physical safety, you must learn to block the marketing, the consumerism, and the easy credit to protect your future. The mindset shift here is critical. You are not depriving yourself when you say no to that new car financing. You are defending yourself against a predator. You are not missing out when you refuse to carry a credit card balance. You are parrying an attack. This perspective changes the emotional weight of the journey. It turns budgeting from a chore into a strategy meeting. It turns frugality from a weakness into a weapon. Now I want to go even deeper into the subject, because the distinction I want you to see is the difference between being a tenant of money and being an owner of capital. Right now, if you are in debt, you are a tenant. You are renting the money you use to live. You are renting the house, you are renting the car. You are even renting the clothes on your back if you bought them on a revolving credit line. And just like any landlord, the bank expects rent interest every single month, regardless of whether you are sick, tired, or unemployed. You are living in a state of financial feudalism, working the land for a lord who sits in a glass tower. The goal of the wallet revolution is to stop being a tenant and start being an owner. When you have zero debt, you own your paycheck. That might sound simple, but think about the impact of that statement. For the vast majority of people, their paycheck is spoken for before it even hits their account. It belongs to Visa, to Ford, to the mortgage company, to the student loan servicer. They are just passing the money through their hands. But when you eliminate the debt, every dollar you earn stays with you. You move from the negative side of the compounding interest equation to the positive side. Instead of paying 20% to the bank, you start earning returns on your own capital. You switch teams. You stop being the prey and you become the architect of your own life. This is the truth they hide behind the flashing lights of the casino. You do and need their credit to survive. They need your debt to survive. If a critical mass of people woke up tomorrow and decided to live below their means, to save up for purchases, and to reject the culture of instant gratification, the banking system as we know it would panic. Their entire model relies on your impatience and your ignorance. By becoming patient and educated, you become a glitch in their matrix. You become a problem they can't solve. This isn't just about money. It's about sovereignty. It's about the decision to say, my labor belongs to me. My time belongs to me. My future belongs to me. This journey to freedom is not easy. It requires you to look in the mirror and kill the consumerist programming that has been installed in your brain since you were a child. It requires you to drive an older car while your friends drive new leases. It requires you to cook at home while they eat out. It requires you to ignore the influencers and the ads telling you that you are not enough unless you buy this product right now. But the reward is something that cannot be bought on credit. Peace. The peace of knowing that if the market crashes, if you lose your job, or if the unexpected happens, you are not standing on the edge of a cliff. You have built a buffer. You have reclaimed your agency. The ambassadors of this revolution are quiet. You won't see it on the news because it doesn't sell ads. But it is happening. People are waking up to the scam. They are realizing that the American dream of endless consumption was a bait and switch. They are finding satisfaction in minimalism, in production, in ownership. They are realizing that true wealth isn't about how much you can borrow. It's about how little you need. This revelation scares the architects more than any regulation ever could, because they can bribe a regulator, but they cannot bribe a free mind that has decided to stop playing their game. When you achieve this level of clarity, you start to see the world differently. You walk past the bank and you don't feel intimidation. You feel pity for the people still trapped inside. You look at the low monthly payment stickers and you see the handcuffs. You are no longer a cog in their machine. You are the wrench thrown into the gears. This is the ultimate power move. It is the reclamation of your dignity in a system designed to strip it away. If you are ready to stop being a tenant in your own life, if you are ready to take up the shield of financial self-defense and start fighting back against the debt trap, I want to know who is with me. I want you to leave a comment below that signifies your commitment to this revolt. Write this phrase: I am the revolution. Let that be your declaration of independence. But this conversation doesn't end here. We have covered the history, the trap, and the mindset needed to escape. However, there is one final piece of actionable advice, a specific strategy on how to actually dismantle the debt you already have without losing your mind, and how to stay free once you escape. It's the practical application of everything we've discussed. If you have made it this far, it means you are not just looking for entertainment, you are looking for a way out. You are part of the few who are willing to face the hard truths to build a better life. And that is exactly the kind of community we are building here. We are going to keep digging into these stories, exposing the mechanics of money, and giving you the tools to fight back. So if you want to be part of this ongoing conversation and make sure you don't miss the next briefing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Consider it your weekly check-in for financial sanity. And if today's video sparked something in you, even if it was just a little bit of righteous anger or a spark of hope, hit the like button. It is a quiet way of telling me that this message resonated and that you want us to keep producing content that challenges the status quo. I really want to know who is standing with us until the very end, so before you go, leave one last comment down below. Just write, I am taking control. It is a promise to yourself as much as it is a message to the rest of us. Now, understanding the trap is step 1, but building the ladder to climb out is step 2. I've selected a video right here on the screen that dives deeper into the specific strategies you can use to accelerate your freedom and protect what you build. Click right there and let's keep this momentum going. I'll see you over there.